明けの岩道火炎をそこは領域近づくなかれ大地焼き立つ雨の日は空滑る炎熱いなるぞ
The long-awaited MonsterHunterRise is finally out. Oh, sorry, phone call. Hello? Wait, what? It's been out? Since when? Since March 2021? The long-awaited MonsterHunterRise is finally out on PC. After about a 10-month wait, the PC Master Race can finally experience the greatness that is MonsterHunterRise. This time riding on the back of the massively successful Monster Hunter world. It's not exactly a sequel world, but the systems and gameplay are pretty similar to it, so it's pretty much a spiritual successor to World. And just like World, the gameplay is a ton of fun with more unique monsters this time around and new moves for each weapon to use. Let's talk about the monsters first. There are a bunch of new monsters this time around, with many returning monsters from previous titles. The new monsters this time around are all inspired by Japanese folklore. For example, the flagship monster for Rise, the Magnamalo, is inspired by the Oni, a demon within a Japanese folklore that's known for its evil nature and instilling fear to everything around it, commonly identified with its fangs and evil looking red face. As for the selection of monsters, there are 46 monsters to hunt so far, which is a pretty good size, even though most of them are returning monsters from previous games. Although I am a bit disappointed that some of them didn't make the cut. Like, where's the angry pickle, or the majestic horse, or even the dog? But I have a feeling some of that's going to change after the Sunbreak DLC drops, with a lot more new monsters to follow. I've also noticed that there aren't any tempered monsters in the game right now, which means that Rise doesn't really have an endgame. There are these Apex monsters which are akin to the monster variants in Iceborne, like Savage Deviljho or the Ruiner Nergigante, but there are only 6 of the Apex monsters in the game right now, which is pretty low considering how many monsters there are available. Now, with that being said, each of the large monsters get their own cinematic cutscene in the style of the old Japanese plays that gave the monsters a little more personality and a bit of context to the behaviors.
浜風一陣迫り来る浜風二陣攻め寄せる長の浜風光の輪すでにとたった
And those are some nice touches to the game, I will admit, but I do wish that there were more monsters in the game that would use more of the new elements though. Like the Mizutsune is the only monster in the game that used the slippery element with the bubbles. Wait, bubbles? Is that a JoJo's reference? Just kidding. But overall, as someone whose only past experience with Monster Hunter is Monster Hunter World, I'd say that Monster Hunter Rise was pretty cool, especially the new monsters that are based off the Japanese folklore. And the last monster at rank 100, the Valstrax, oh my god was that one difficult. It took me about 2 hours with a random party to beat it because doing it solo, forget about it. It's way too fast and the hitboxes are way too big, but that just made it all the more satisfactory when I did manage to beat it. We did it! Let's go! We did it!
もらっていく。
またな。
Oh, whoops, I forgot to give that guy.
取らせていただきます。
Oh my god. He actually did it. Oh.
Let's
go! Now as for the graphics and how the game looks, Rise looks pretty good on the highest graphical settings. Although there are some lighting glitches that happen from time to time, and for some reason the cutscenes run at what feels like 30 FPS. I assume that's because Rise was ported from the Switch to the PC. Other than those minor problems, the game runs pretty smoothly at the highest settings. It really feels like Capcom has learned a lot about how to port a console game over to PC after the disaster that was Monster Hunter World's PC launch, which was loaded with bugs and technical issues. There are minor bugs that Rise has though. Like sometimes the game would launch on my second monitor even though I never changed it. And the game only crashed once during my 60-hour playthrough. But that was probably more of a problem on my end though. And apparently there is this game-breaking bug on the PC version where your save file would just delete itself. I've never ran into this problem myself, but many others did, and they review bombed the shit out of this game. Not only does the game run buttery smooth, but the gameplay is so good. The developers have really mastered the Monster Hunter gameplay loop because it is so damn addicting. Every time I play this game, I would tell myself that I'll only do a couple of hunts for like 1 or 2 hours, then wait, that was it? Nah, come on, that couldn't have been it. That was only just like 1 or 2 hunts. I'll do one more. I still got one more in me. Yeah, maybe one more. Okay, this is the last one, I promise. Oh, it's been 7 hours already.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
The gameplay and world was already pretty good, and the developers managed to improve upon that by adding so many quality of life changes. Like, for example, they made the grapple hooks into these wire bugs that let you grapple onto the air and just make movement a lot less tedious. Or you can use them as a gap closer, or you can even deal damage with them with these silkbind attacks. What I like about Rise is that they've allowed you to scale pretty much any wall in order to get a creative angle on the monster, or just get to it quickly. Oh, and have I mentioned dog drifting? Not only can you scale any wall, but it's also encouraged to scale the walls and explore around because you can get these small permanent buffs throughout the map that reward players for going off the beaten path. Now let's talk about the gear in Monster Hunter because they've added a whole slew of badass looking armor sets and weapons. Oh my god, I look sick! Oh my god, I look like a Gundam! And the weapons are all awesome to play with. The weapon selection this time around is the same from previous games, which is fine because there are a bunch of weapons to choose from, and they all have their own complexities to them. They've even added more moves this time around, with the ability to switch out moves for others depending on your playstyle. But there's not enough to create any real variation in move choices, as some moves are just clearly an upgrade from others. What's that? You the viewers are wondering what weapon I main in Rise? Nobody asked! Well, I'll give you a few hints of what I mean in Rise. Can you guess what it is? That's right, I main long greatsword. I main greatsword. Bet you can guess that one, you filthy casual. Although the game loop itself is great, there are some gripes that I have with Rise. First is that they remove some cool game elements from World in favor of streamlining the game. Tracking is gone, which is sad because they made me feel like I was actually a hunter tracking down these huge monsters, kind of like they did in Jurassic Park.
Clever girl.
And there's this mystery, this curiosity of seeing unknown tracks for the first time that made you want to follow it more and find out what made these tracks. And now that's just gone. Not only that, but mantles? Yeeted. Slingers? Deleted. And there's just a lack of environmental hazards in Rise that World had. Like heat damage in the Elder's Recess. Okay, there are some in Rise, but that's only if you step in the lava that's placed way far out of the way. The effluvium in the Rotten Vale, the waterfall, the ancient forest. Hell, there are no more stalagmites that you can drop on a monster's head. And I think a lot of the problems come from the map design. They just feel uninspired and bland. Except for the shrine ruins, that one's the best one. But for the other maps, they're just generic areas with a bunch of flat land. Like for example, the Frosted Islands, pretty much every sector is just a flat open area with maybe a ledge here and there. What happened to the slopes and the interesting terrain that World had? And this is the same for every map in Rise. What's the point of being able to scale any wall if there's barely any walls to scale during combat? Compare these to the maps in World, and it's just a night and day difference in map design. In World, you have to consider where you're going to fight, how you can use the environment as your advantage, and how it would be used as a disadvantage. It was basically like a wildcard variable that could either help or hinder you. Imagine if you could topple the shrine tower on the monster in the Shrine Ruins map, or bring down the wreckage of the boat in the Frosted Islands. That would have been so badass. It's just disappointing because the developers have essentially removed all of the flavor from the environments that World had, stripping the benefits of good preparation and map knowledge, and now it feels like we're less of a hunter and more of an assassin that happens to go for monsters. Another change I want to mention is how the mounting works, or wyvern riding. It's a pretty fun change that lets you control the monsters and make them attack other monsters like King Kong versus Godzilla type shit.
Yeah! Get that fucking! Get him! Get him! Yeah! Whoa! Whoa! Woo! Woo! Yeah!
There's even this pretty cool strategy where you would mount another monster that you're not hunting and bring it over to the monster you are hunting and just deal massive damage to it, which is so badass. Anyway, the problem with it is that you're forced into wyvern riding. There's no way to choose not to do it because if you attack the monster while it's in a rideable state, you automatically ride it, and it's just annoying for people that don't want to participate in it. There's also this new tower defense minigame called Rampage, and these are quite a bit of fun to do with other people, as it can get pretty chaotic at times. Oh no, get away, good! Bro, you can't trap it. But I do not recommend doing them alone, as it can get pretty overwhelming and the monsters would just pretty much focus you. And the thing about rampages is that they can become pretty tedious and repetitive to do. But overall, they're a neat addition to the game and they're pretty fun with others. So what's the endgame like in Rise? Well, there's not much of it after you beat the last monster. No investigations, no tempered monsters. There are these advanced hunts that you can do after you beat Valstrak's last monster, so I guess that can kind of be your endgame. But there are only like 5 of them, so it wouldn't be enough. Anyway, all you can really do is just rerun the same hunts you had before, which is kind of disappointing, so hopefully this changes soon or else we would be some sad monster ranchers. I mean, monster hunters. A part of what makes the gameplay so damn addicting is the music. The music in Rise is so good. There's just a wide array of tracks and they're all memorable and distinct. These tracks really amp up the intensity of the fights and it's just... like, I haven't listened to some of these tracks. Now, as for the story Rise, there really isn't much to talk about because there's barely any story. See, these quests are separated into 2 categories, village quests and hub quests. The hub quests are your multiplayer quests, and the village quests are your purely single player. I don't hate this idea. The hub quests are there if you want to do hunts with other players, and the village quests are there if you want to do the story. Except, it's not like that at all. Half the story is in the village quest and the other half is in the hub quest, and it just creates this weird disconnect with the story where you finish the village quest halfway through the story and then the credits just roll after kind of beating the first boss monster, the Magnamalo, and then there's still more story in the hub quest. So then what's the point in the village quest if you're only going to put half the story in it? Not to mention that the story itself is pretty bare bones. I know Monster Hunter was never really about the story, so I'm not going to rip on it too much because the gameplay more than makes up for the lack of story. At least there are actual named characters this time around, and even better, no more handler. I mean, the first cutscene of the game opens with this. What I am gonna rip on is the god-awful pacing when you reach the Hunter rank 20 and up quests. You'll be playing normally, doing the required quests in order to progress the story for the hub quest. Then once you hit rank 20, the game progression comes to a screeching halt. The next few quests become leveled to rank 30, then 40, then 50, then 100. And this might have been fine if you unlocked another tier of quest after each milestone, but nope, the 7-star quests are the highest the game goes. So you don't get that much out of completing these quests. This is probably due to the game lacking any meaningful endgame content, that they had to egregiously pad out the game more to keep people playing longer. Again, hopefully future updates and or DLC will alleviate this issue. Speaking of DLC, why does this game have so many microtransactions for a full price game? Like, there's over 100 microtransactions listed on Steam, and I'm wondering, did anyone actually buy these? I mean, I guess if you really wanted the cat ears for your character, but other than that, most of the microtransactions are lame and unnecessary. Like, why couldn't most of these just be in the base game? Like, do you really need to be selling us a couple of stickers for $2, Capcom? And a deluxe edition is really not worth it. Priced at $15, you get some shitty looking cosmetic armor for you and your pets, 2 emotes, a face tattoo, and a hairstyle. Yeah, you're asking $15 for this? No thanks. Anyway, let's wrap up this review. Monster Hunter Rise is a spiritual successor to Monster Hunter World that's seen in Japanese mythology. Everything from the monsters to the character designs reflect that setting. And just like World, the gameplay loop is a blast, keeping all of the previous complexities of the weapon mechanics while adding more moves and mechanics to raise the skill ceiling. Rampages are a fun addition to the game, but can kinda get tedious and repetitive. Accompanying the addictive gameplay is a superb soundtrack that just gives it a little more oomph in combat. The story can be a bit lacking, but Monster Hunter was never really about the story. But what's disappointing about Rise is that the flavor that World had isn't here, and it shows with the uninspired and generic environments and map design. Rise also suffers from really bad padding when you get to the higher tier quests, and it really feels like this game could have used a bit more time to add some finishing touches and maybe even bolster the game up with a little more content. But overall, this game is great, and I can't wait for the Sunbreak DLC to come out in the future. So I'm going to give this game an 8 out of 10. This game is a lot of fun whether you're playing alone or playing with friends, and it's worth the full $60 price, even though it's pretty much released last year. And that's it for the review. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe for more game reviews in the future. And thanks for watching. See ya.